If you're listening to this, it's because you already suspect something no one dares to say to you out loud. The game was never fair. They raised you believing that if you were a good person, if you worked hard and stayed patient, life would eventually reward you. But you look around, and what you see is something else. Mediocre people in high positions, manipulators receiving more respect than noble people, opportunists with more money than honest workers who break their backs every day. That's where the suspicion begins. What if life doesn't reward the good, but the strategic? What you're about to hear is not a manual to turn you into a pointless villain. It's something more uncomfortable. It's the map used in silence by those who are already 3 steps ahead of you. These are 18 ruthless rules that Machiavelli understood and that the system will never teach you. Because a population that thinks strategically stops being controllable. The system doesn't want you to think. It wants you to obey. It wants you to blame yourself for failing in a game whose board was never fully shown to you. Imagine for a moment that you could see life as a chessboard, not as a fairy tale, not as a romantic novel, but as a power game where every decision has a cost. Machiavelli understood that the ones who win are not those who sit around waiting for justice, but those who learn to use reality as it is, not as they wish it were. And that's the first wound you must accept. The world does not adapt to your sensitivity. You decide whether your sensitivity strengthens you or turns you into prey. The first ruthless rule is to accept, without anesthesia, that the game is unfair, and still choose to play to win. As long as you keep expecting everyone to be good, for no one to lie, for no one to betray you, you will continue walking into every battle unarmed. Machiavelli knew this. Whoever enters the arena believing they're in a temple leaves destroyed. When you understand that life is negotiation, force, appearance, and strategy, you let go of suicidal innocence and you start building something far more valuable: clarity. It's not about becoming cruel, it's about stop being a victim. The second rule: information is worth more than force. The ignorant shout, threaten, impose themselves with aggression because they know nothing else. The strategist observes in silence, listens to how people speak, what they hide, what hurts them, what they desire. He doesn't rush to talk about himself. He isn't desperate to impress. He is desperate to understand. The one who knows what the other needs controls them without raising their voice. At work, in your family, in your relationships, the one who understands others' weaknesses and motivations holds an unfair advantage without breaking anything, without shouting. Whoever controls information controls others' decisions without them noticing. The third ruthless rule: control perception, not truth. Machiavelli didn't write for saints. He wrote for those who understood that human beings don't react to what you are, but to what they believe you are. You can be competent, loyal, disciplined. But if your image communicates fragility, timidity, or disorder, people will walk all over you. Doing things well is not enough. You must master the art of appearing confident, solid, dangerous to underestimate. Your clothes, your tone of voice, your posture, your silence, the way you look. All of that speaks long before your words do. The world isn't fair, but it is predictable. Most people only respect what they perceive as strong. The fourth rule: never show your full need. The one who looks desperate loses automatically. Desperation is blood in the water. It awakens the predator instinct in others. Machiavelli knew that when you need a job, a person, an opportunity too much, you become negotiable, moldable, cheap. Learning to desire without begging, to want something without selling your dignity for it, is one of the most Machiavellian acts that exist. When the other person senses that you can get up and leave, your value skyrockets. When they sense you're tied to them, your value collapses. In love, in business, in friendship, the same law applies. The fifth ruthless rule: cultivate strategic emotional coldness. It's not about not feeling, it's about not letting your emotions make decisions for you. Anger makes you say things that will later be used against you. Sadness paralyzes you when you need to move. Fear makes you sell yourself below your worth. The strategist feels, but decides later. He breathes, steps back, observes, and only then executes. Machiavelli understood this. The prince who reacts on impulse becomes a toy for his court. The citizen who reacts on impulse becomes a toy for the system. The sixth rule: use scarcity as a weapon. If you're always available, if you respond instantly, if you say yes to everything, your presence becomes cheap. Nobody values what they can have whenever they want. Scarcity increases desire, respect, and attention. Learn to hold yourself back, to not respond immediately, to not be everyone's lifeline. It's not selfishness, it's strategy. Machiavelli knew that a ruler who lets himself be seen too much loses mystery, and with mystery, respect disappears. In your life, the same thing happens. Stop giving away your time and energy as if they were infinite. The seventh ruthless rule: make yourself indispensable in something others cannot easily copy. The person who can be replaced is treated like an object. The one who solves problems nobody else knows how to solve. The one with skills that cannot be improvised in a weekend course. That person becomes expensive. Being a good person does not make you indispensable. Solving difficult problems does. Learn a strategic skill, something that combines knowledge, character, and experience. Make yourself so valuable that removing you from the board becomes too costly for anyone. That is the kind of unfair advantage Machiavelli would respect. The eighth rule: play on several boards at the same time. The naive person bets their entire life on a single card. One job, one source of income, one relationship, one social circle. When that pillar collapses, everything falls apart. The strategist multiplies his options. Learn to generate more than one source of money, more than one network of contacts, more than one open opportunity. Machiavelli would call this reinforcing your fortune with your virtue, not trusting luck, but building your escape routes before you need them. The one with alternatives does not humiliate himself. The one who depends on a single thing ends up swallowing anything. The ninth ruthless rule: maintain initiative. The one who always reacts is always behind. The one who sets the agenda, who moves first, who marks the rhythm, that person dominates the interaction without openly imposing it. Initiative means you decide when people speak, what they speak about, and on what terrain the discussion happens. Machiavelli advised striking first when it was strategic, not impulsively, but to force the other person to move on your board. In everyday life, it means not waiting for things to happen, but designing what you want to happen. Studying, moving, speaking, cutting ties, starting, quitting, proposing. The one who doesn't decide ends up obeying other people's decisions. The 10th rule: isolate the enemy. Don't attack them head-on while they still have strength. In a workplace, in a family, in any group, there is always someone who sees you as a threat. If you attack them directly, you generate sympathy for them and rejection toward yourself. Machiavelli suggested something far more refined. Cut off their support. Don't fight the person, fight their alliances. Clean up your reputation. Strengthen your ties with others. Show value and loyalty to those who hold influence. There comes a moment when the one who spoke badly of you finds himself alone, and his words lose weight without you having raised your voice even once. The 11th ruthless rule: use rewards more than punishments, but make it clear that limits also exist. People move through desire and fear. The clumsy leader uses only fear and ends up generating resentment. The strategist offers real rewards: respect, opportunities, recognition, advantages for being close to him. Yet at the same time, he makes his boundaries unmistakably clear. He doesn't threaten, but he also doesn't contradict himself. When someone crosses a line, there are consequences that are not negotiated. Machiavelli knew that the beloved prince who cannot punish becomes decorative. The one who only punishes becomes hated and vulnerable. The balance is dark, but powerful. The 12th rule: keep your hands as clean as possible. Real power rarely exposes itself directly. Those who pull the strings understand that some decisions will stain them, but they look for ways to cushion the impact. In Machiavelli's words, the prince delegates certain actions to others, not because he is a coward, but because he understands that image is a strategic resource in your life. This means not always being the one who shows his face in the dirtiest conflicts, not being the one who sends the harshest message, not being the one who exposes himself publicly when there is much to lose. It's not about manipulating without scruples. It's about understanding that your reputation is a weapon you must protect. The 13th ruthless rule: make underestimating you an expensive mistake. You don't need to walk through the world proving you're the smartest person in the room. Ego wants that, strategy doesn't. Sometimes it benefits you if they believe you're a little more naive, a little less prepared, a little less dangerous than you actually are. Those who underestimate you lower their guard, reveal who they really are, expose their true intentions. When the time comes to make your move, the element of surprise works in your favor. Machiavelli knew that the prince who constantly flaunts his strength ends up provoking coalitions against him. The one who advances quietly becomes difficult to stop. The 14th rule: never fight battles you cannot win, not even when your pride demands it. Pride pushes you to prove no one can defeat you. Strategy reminds you that not every battlefield belongs to you. Choose your fights. Don't waste energy arguing with closed minds, battling mediocres who only want to drag you down to their level, trying to convince someone who benefits from not understanding you. Retreat when the terrain is against you, and move to one where your skills matter. Machiavelli would put it this way: the prudent prince avoids risks that could destroy him completely, even if his honor pushes him to enter. The 15th ruthless rule: guard your time with the same ferocity that others guard their money. The mentally poor give away hours as if they were worthless, then complain about not having results. The rich in strategy know that every hour you give away without intention becomes an advantage for someone else, not for you. The system wants you to waste your days on distractions, drama, gossip, screens, pointless comparisons. It wants your attention because where your attention goes, your entire life goes. If you learn to say no, to close doors, to dedicate long hours to your discipline, sooner or later the board tilts in your favor. Becoming rich is not that hard. What's hard is to stop wasting time. The 16th rule: guard your inner circle obsessively. The people you talk to the most, the ones you listen to the most, become filters for your mind. They feed you fears, limits, beliefs, ambitions, and ways of seeing the world. Machiavelli knew that a prince surrounded by flatterers ends up destroyed. The one who surrounds himself with lucid, honest, and capable people becomes stronger. In your life, this means you cannot afford to be surrounded by people who mock your dreams, who trivialize your effort, who ridicule your discipline. You might not be able to choose everyone around you, but you can choose who you give your intimacy to. That, even if it doesn't look like it, is pure power. The 17th ruthless rule: reinvent yourself before they dethrone you. The modern world moves faster than ever. What gives you an advantage today becomes minimal tomorrow. If you wait for life to force you to change, you're already late. Machiavelli would understand this as getting ahead of fortune, shedding your skin before the old one rots on top of you. Learn new skills, update your communication, adapt your mindset to the present game. Don't cling to who you used to be. Invest. And now comes the uncomfortable part. What do you do with all of this when the video ends? Because it's useless to understand these rules if, the moment you close the screen, you return to the same domesticated version of yourself. Machiavelli didn't write for people who just want entertainment. He wrote for those willing to pay the price of thinking differently. Applying these rules is not about repeating motivational quotes. It's about making small, concrete, painful decisions every single day. A decision like stopping the excuses for someone who constantly disrespects you. Starting to say no where you always said, "Okay, fine." Keeping silent where before you defended yourself through tears. Moving strategically instead of exploding impulsively. Change is not spectacular. It's uncomfortable, constant, and silent. You can start today with something simple but brutally effective. Say, one area of my life where I know I'm being a pawn. And ask yourself, what would a king do there? Not what a perfect person or a movie hero would do. What someone who respects themselves and thinks 3 moves ahead would do. Maybe the king's move is updating your resume and sending out emails while your workplace still believes you're grateful just to be there. Maybe it's saving money quietly so you can leave a relationship where you're only being used. Maybe it's turning off your phone for an hour a day to study while everyone else is distracted. Don't expect the world to applaud these decisions. Most people will feel threatened by your change because it reminds them of what they themselves are too afraid to do. You'll also have to accept that by applying these rules, you will lose people along the way. Not everyone can handle someone who stops being manipulable. Some will say you've become cold, selfish, strange. What's really happening is that you stopped being useful to their comfort. Machiavelli knew this. When you change your position on the board, the masks around you change too. Some will reveal themselves as genuine allies, capable of respecting your new strength. Others will be exposed as emotional parasites. Don't try to convince them or justify yourself. Whoever does not accept your dignity does not deserve your explanation. The right people adapt to your growth. The wrong ones get offended by your boundaries. And in the middle of this process, don't forget something essential. The truly Machiavellian victory is not only winning on the outside, but not betraying yourself on the inside. You can gain money, power, respect, and still lose everything if you become what you once hated. The real unfair advantage is making your strategy serve your freedom, not chaining you to a character you're not. That's why every rule you apply must pass through one filter. Does this strengthen me? Or does it make me a slave to my own ego? Does it bring me closer to the life I want? Or does it just feed my need to prove something to others? The game is dark, but you choose whether your conscience is too. Imagine for a moment that millions of people stopped living like obedient pawns, always waiting for permission, and started thinking with this lucid coldness. The system would tremble. Companies wouldn't be able to exploit so easily. Toxic relationships would run out of victims. Manipulators would lose their food source. That's why these ideas will never be in TV commercials or official messages. A people who understand power stop being docile. That's why you, the one watching this, are dangerous, because now you can't pretend you don't know how the board works. From this moment on, if you continue living like a victim, it will be a choice, not a destiny. Remember this, no one is coming to rescue you. There will be no white horse, no savior who fixes the chaos of your life without you lifting a finger. The only things you truly have are your mind, your time, and your ability to choose who you become. Machiavelli only offers you a brutal mirror where you can see yourself as you are. Today, a confused pawn, an underestimated piece, or a king in construction. The difference is not in what you dream, but in what you're willing to do every day when no one sees you. You don't need the world to believe in you. You need to behave like someone you yourself cannot afford to stop believing in. If you made it this far, it's because something inside you refused to stay asleep. Don't silence that voice. Feed this new way of seeing the world. Surround yourself with content that confronts you, ideas that elevate you, people who don't get scared when you talk about power, dignity, and freedom. Subscribe, comment, and share this video if it made you think. Because you might be the breaking point in the chain of naivete in your family, your circle, your history. So that when they speak of you, they say, that's where the pawn woke up and decided to learn the ruthless rules of the game. But this time, to stop losing everything and finally start.